talk or even meet in person, as opposed to just doing something online and hopefully someone calls you back from someplace which we don't know about. Typically they're in California, but anyway, you won't be there. But so personalized service, I think is real important, especially if you're buying a home for the first time. There's a lot of things that you need to know along the way. I've been in the mortgage business for a little over 25 years, and I'm not gonna say I've seen it all, but I sure have seen a lot. And like I say, let our experience help you out along the way. If there's something that we don't know, we absolutely will figure it out, but we will help you as best we can. We do have an online application that's at the credit union website. Typically what I'll do is once I talk, we can get pre-approved over the phone. It's really easy to do. Typically I just ask what's your income and what's your monthly debt, and then I can back into a maximum loan amount. Now it's all subject to credit and verification of income and all that stuff. But on day one, we just want to know, can I afford a $100,000 house, $1 million house, 500,000, whatever the number is. We like to figure that out on day one so that we know, where that you can tell your realtor what price range you're looking at. Because the last, and Rebecca will go over this too. The last thing that the realtor wants to find out is that she's taking you to look at $1 million houses and you qualify for 100,000. That's typically, I mean, unless you have a large down payment, typically that's not something that you want to do. We do closings at, and Willie Vale and their closing attorney will go over this too, but we do close your mortgage at the credit union or at the attorney's office, or sometimes we've even closed them at people's houses that they're buying. So really easy to sit down and sign the paperwork. It doesn't take very long, but really about 20 minutes or so, 30 minutes. Yeah, so it goes pretty quick. We do offer low rates with flexible terms. And when you call in, I'm more than happy to go over current rates. Everyone wants to know what the rate is. As of today, March, whatever today date is, 25th, 6th, February 26th. That's a long month. Yeah. Yeah, when you're in the mortgage business, you're always a month ahead. You're always looking at things a month out. But anyway, current rates today on the 30-year are just under 7%. So they're like 6.75 today. So like 2 weeks ago, we were like 6.25. So rates have been pretty volatile, which I know everyone's aware of that. The 2%, 3% interest rates on mortgages, they're a thing of the past. That's in the rearview mirror. So, but we do offer 15-year, 20-year, 30-year. We even have a 7-year ARM product that we can talk when you call business. The next one, the next slide goes over the actual process of what we do, the application, and which is done online. Once I receive that, I'll call you and we'll go over exactly what we want to do. Once you're under contract and the home passes your inspection, which Tim Reed will talk about the home inspections. Once your home passes inspection, when I say passes, it's up to you. If you're okay that the door squeaks, then we move forward. If you say, hey, Joe, there's no way I'm buying this house because the carpets are dirty, then we go back to square one. But once we go past that point, then we start processing the file. We verify income and employment and down payment and all that stuff. We gather it all together. We get the title work from Willie's office and we get an appraisal from Alan Rainwater. Once we put all that together, we get that to our underwriter, and he reviews all the information and says, hey, we need page 3 of the bank statement. We get that. Typically, there's not a lot of conditions that we need because if your accounts are good at the credit union, we can print your statements and things, but typically it's not too bad. And then once we get through underwriting, we set up a time to close, and then we wire the money out for the funding of this. So it's not that bad of a process. I know a lot of times people tell me, oh, I hear it's so hard. So it's really not that difficult. So if you could just hang in there with us and get us the information in a timely fashion, we can get loans closed in as quick as 2 weeks, start to finish. So, and that's nice from a negotiating standpoint when you're with the realtor. When you tell them that your credit union can close the loan in 2 weeks, the seller's more willing to negotiate with someone like that and close in 2 weeks as opposed to someone who can close in 2 months. So I've had a lot of people go under contract just because of the close early. So sometimes keep that in your back pocket. And again, Rebecca can mention that too when she's doing her things. Okay, and then the next slide, we're going to talk about how much can I afford. And that's something that I will do with you typically over the phone. When you're ready to do that, just have your pay stubs or W-2s ready. And let me know what your monthly expenses are. And monthly expenses that we count are any car loan payments, student loan payments, minimum credit card payments. We do not look at your light bill, gas bill, cell phone bill, none of that stuff. And like I say, I can do that over the phone, and it's just a quick calculation, and then I can back into a maximum loan amount. And then once we know what the loan amount is that you can qualify for, then I ask what's your down payment. We take your down payment and add that to the loan amount, and then that would be your purchase price. Kind of work it backwards a little bit, but anyway, that's how we do the calculation. In terms of running a credit report, a lot of people say, are you going to do a hard pull on it? Typically, no, not on day one. I'll ask you how your credit history is. If it's great, then I typically don't get a credit report on day one. If you tell me, well, I've got slow pay here and a slow pay there, then I'll typically run a credit report just to make sure that we're good. Okay, the next one, just real quick, there's a first-time homebuyer product where it assists in the down payment. All this information is at our website, so that the details are out there. I don't want to get into it now and take up too much time. But it's a nice program that I believe it's the state has. And you've got to make under a certain amount of income. But that's the one that gets everybody's to make too much money. And I know when's the last time someone said you make too much money, but that product, you've got to make under the median area income. I think it's 80% of the median income. So there's some specifics in that one. But it does, if you do qualify for that, it does help it, with closing costs and down payment assistance. And same thing for the community partner product. It's a little more money. But it's for, you can see it there, retired law enforcement officers, educators, healthcare workers, etc. So that's a nice one too. Okay, credit requirements. So the 3 C's of credit, or the three things are your credit, your capacity, and your collateral. So your credit, we talked about that a little bit. Sometimes I have someone to say, well, I pay cash for everything, so I don't have a credit score. I would suggest that if you're looking to buy a home in the near future and you pay cash for everything, then just think about it from a lender standpoint. We don't know how you handle your credit because you don't have any, or you haven't used your credit in a long time. Use your credit card, pay it back on a monthly basis, use it, pay it back. That way you establish a history so we can see that you make your payments all the time. That's the key. I'm not saying that it makes a whole lot of sense. I get it, but that's just how the game is played. So if you have a credit card, use it, pay it back, use it, pay it back. That's a good way to establish your history. And again, we can run a credit report. It doesn't cost you anything. We can go over it in detail one-on-one and figure out what we need to do or what we don't need to do with it. I think that's probably the most important of the C. The next one is the capacity. So we're talking about your income and employment and your savings history. Typically, we're looking for a 2-year employment history. It doesn't have to be at the same place. It can be at a different institution or a different company. As long as you have 30 days worth of pay stubs at a particular company and you're currently employed, we then look backwards 24 months. That's the only way we can look is backwards. And then the next one is collateral. That's going to be the value of your house. There's any liens on it, which is something that Willie will do at Sherman & Phelan, our closing attorney. The condition of the home, that's what Tim Reed will do in the home inspection. And then the appraised value of the home, that's going to be Alan, who's going to tell us that the house is worth X amount of money. Okay. We did what's called a tri-merge on the credit report. and we look at your middle score. And it's going to be the low, if there's two borrowers, it's the lower of the middle score. And that's something that we'll provide to you, once we have your application and we're moving forward. I will send you a little snippet of what your credit scores are. Legally, I cannot send you a copy of your credit report because we are the credit union side credit reporting agency. But here in the state of Georgia, you can get your credit report once a year for free. So if you have any questions about your credit history, you want to see what's out there, go ahead and get a copy from Equifax, Experian, or TransUnion. I believe you can do all that online. If you do get a copy of that and say, hey, Joe, I want to go over my credit history, be more than happy to do that. We'll set a time up and, 10, 15, 20 minutes could make a big difference when you're shopping for a new home. On there, if there's any derogatory credit, we'll go over that and see what that is. If there's something that's not correct, we can always dispute it. When I say we, I mean you. Legally, I can't do that, but I can tell you to dispute it directly with the credit bureaus. And if they don't answer your dispute within 30 days, they'll be there. So, but anyway, that's another way that we can help you out or kind of hold your hand through the process if that's an issue. Next one is the length of credit histories. Typically, we like to see 3 trade lines. So that would be a Visa card, a car loan, or a credit card, something like that. Just 3 trade lines. The credit bureaus have, well, I should say the mortgage industry has now accepted that if you don't have 3 trade lines, we can use alternative sources like your rent payment, like your paying a cell phone bill or things like that. So we always say we'd rather have no credit history as opposed to having bad credit history. So no credit history is not as bad as it sounds. So we just have to work in a different way. Next one is going to be, let's talk about the capacity. Capacity is going to be your income. There we go.
Okay, sorry.
So for capacity, we're going to look at your base income and if you get overtime, we're going to average overtime for the past 24 months. If your commission income, then we look at the past 2 years. A lot of times I had someone just the other day said, well, they're working at a car dealership and they've been there for a few months and they use commission income. And I said, well, I've got to have a 2-year history of your commission income to count it. So I can use a base income when you start, but for commission income, I've got to look backwards over the past 2 years. For those who are self-employed, we look at your personal tax returns and business tax returns. So that's real important too. If you're ready to purchase a home and you're self-employed, go ahead and get your tax returns on your desktop so you can send them to me or print them out. We can meet however you want to do it. But the key there is let's look at all that before we start looking at a house, because again, if you're looking for $1 million house, we can only qualify for 100,000. That's going to be a big difference. I don't want to waste anyone's time, but be more than happy to look at that. It doesn't take very long. Again, none of this costs you anything to do this. The next one would be collateral. That's going to be pretty much the appraisal, which Adam will do. And there's some information on what he does. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But we will provide you with a copy of the appraisal for your records. And currently, Jason, are we still paying for the appraisal? Okay, yeah. So Jason said, yes, we're still paying for the copy of the appraisal. And so that won't cost you anything. Most places charge you $500-600 for the appraisal. Alan, because he does a lot of our business, he charges us $400. That's a pretty good deal. And we will provide you with a copy of that report. And if you ever want to go over it, I can go through it line by line. And if we have questions on it, we can get Alan on the phone and he can explain how to keep up with his determination. And the attorney, okay, so Willie, at the last bullet point, Willie will do a title search on the property that you find just to make sure that the person sitting across from the table is the actual seller. and that you're the actual buyer. So he'll do a title search to make sure that there's no liens on the property, and that's something that Will will bring up as well. So thank you for your time. Boy, I think it went a little bit on there. I could talk all day. Anyway, I'm going to turn this over back to Amanda, and we'll talk about our realtor.
Yes, so next up is Rebecca Cooper, and she is going to talk to you about the importance of a realtor and what her job is to support you.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm Rebecca Cooper with Cooper Southern Homes Atlanta Communities, and I want to thank the credit union for inviting me to be here to talk to you this evening. This is an exciting time if you are thinking about purchasing a home, whether it's your first home or your 10th home. There's always lots to think about and lots to consider. So some of the first things that you're going to do is you want to get pre-qualified. So you're going to want to get with the credit union to start that pre-qualification process, or you might start by looking for a realtor, in which case the first thing your realtor is going to do is refer you to a lender. So, but those are two people that you're going to want to find and establish that relationship with very early in your process of looking for your next home. You definitely want to find somebody who you trust and you like. You're going to be spending a fair amount of time over, weeks or months or, sometimes even longer with these professionals. So you do want to make sure it's somebody that you trust. You're going to be sharing personal information, financial information, things like that. And obviously, somebody who you feel comfortable with. Joe mentioned how important it is from their standpoint to, work with the credit union because they offer that personalized professional service. And I would say that that's the same when you're looking for your realtor as well to represent you. And again, you do want to make sure that you are working with somebody who is representing you in the transaction, who's looking out for your best interests. Sometimes folks, when they start looking for homes, they start driving around in neighborhoods that they think they might be interested in, and they see a house, in a certain neighborhood, or they go online and start looking online, and those things are fine. It's great to get a feel by driving around to different places or even looking online. But when you get serious and you start having questions about property, or you want to go see a property, if you call the person whose name is on a website or whose name is on the sign in front of a property, or even if you're looking at new construction and you go into a new home subdivision, all of those people who are going to answer the phone do not represent your best interest because they already have a written agreement with the seller. If it's a new construction, that would be with the builder, to represent them in that transaction, and they are obligated to look out for the best interest of the seller, not the best interest of you as the buyer. So you really do want to make sure that you've got somebody who's got your best interest in mind, to help you throughout the whole process, to provide you with information, to assist you with negotiations on your behalf, and to get all of your questions answered. So we'll go to the next slide. Thank you. Okay, so once you have gotten pre-qualified and you have selected who the realtor is that you want to represent you, probably the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to sit down with that realtor and you're going to have, I call it an initial buyer consultation. And you're going to go through the whole process with that person. A lot of the information I'm kind of giving you a snapshot of tonight, which is a type of information that we would go over in that buyer consultation. But one of the first things we'll talk about is, what are you looking for? What are you looking for in a home? How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? Do you want something new? Do you want something on land? Do you want a townhouse? Where do you want it to be? What's important to you in a neighborhood? Do you want to be, are you looking for a specific school district? Do we want to keep it within X amount of miles from where you work? All those types of things. And then as your realtor, we'll go ahead and set up a search for you. And the more we work together and the more feedback you can provide to your realtor, the better the realtor can assist you in finding just the right home for you. So it's great for you to give your realtor feedback on what you like about homes and what you don't like about homes. So we can help narrow down to find just the right home that you're looking for. Then, once you start seeing these things online, your realtor will be sending you homes online. And we'll communicate with you about the homes that we're sending you. You'll probably start to see some that you'd like to go out and look at. So at that point, you'll meet with your realtor and meet at the home and go look at the homes that you're interested in. Like I said, it's different for different people. Some people I can take out literally one day, we'll look at 6 homes and they'll do an offer. Other people, it might take a year of looking at homes. So it's all just up to the buyer, what your particular situation is, and we'll go at a pace that you're comfortable with. Once you find the home that you want to make an offer on, we go ahead and start negotiating through that. And we will actually talk a little bit more about the negotiation process on the next slide. But how you make an offer is going to determine, the market conditions are going to kind of affect what type of offer you might make. Or, we sometimes are going to look at your offer through the eyes of the seller. If we're in a market that's really a seller's market and you might be competing with other potential buyers on the same home. Or if it's a buyer's market, then that's going to determine what your realtor might recommend to you to put in an offer. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's you and your realtor trying to ultimately get you under contract with the seller on that home that you're looking to purchase. Okay, so once you go under contract, the due diligence period starts. So that is a negotiable item. That is the time frame once you go under contract where you'll have all of your inspections done. You're going to want to have a home inspection. You might want a air quality test done. You might want a mold test done. And Tim will talk more about the different types of inspection and things. But during that due diligence period, that's what I call the buyer's free look period. So if during that time there's anything that comes up that is cause for concern and makes you say, I don't think this house is for me, I want to keep looking, you can then back out of that contract and not lose anything and not be in default of the contract. Once you're outside of your due diligence period and you've had your inspections done, we're going to be doing things like having you obtain a homeowner's insurance quote. It's actually not a bad idea to touch base with an insurance agent even while you're during due diligence, because you do want to find out things like, is the home in a floodplain and is it going to require flood insurance? And that's something that your insurance agent can help you with. From there, you'll be working obviously closely with the credit union throughout your financing contingency period and your appraisal contingency periods. Those are often a little bit longer than your due diligence period, but again, all of these timeframes are negotiable, and that's something that your realtor will help guide you as to, for your particular situation and the kind of market that you're in, help you know how many days to offer a seller as far as what you want as far as time frame for due diligence, financing, and appraisal contingency periods. So you're throughout this process going to stay in close contact with your lender. Once you're outside of once you go under contract, a copy of your contract will be sent to the closing attorney, and your realtor will do that for you. And then the attorney will start requesting some information. And Willie's going to talk to you about that as well. And then as you're getting closer to the closing, you'll be setting up utilities, you'll be wiring funds to the closing attorney based on the information that the credit union is going to provide to you. And then it is the day of closing and you will be getting your keys to your home. So one of the things that I get asked all the time, obviously, is this is a big financial purchase. So people often want to know, well, when am I going to start writing checks? When do I have to start laying out money? So the first time that you're going to be writing a check or sending a deposit is for your earnest money. So as soon as you go under contract, you will be providing to the seller, although it'll be the seller's brokerage that will be holding your earnest money. That's typically about 1% of the purchase price. But again, that's another negotiable item as to how much earnest money you put down. And that's good faith money. That tells the seller, yes, this person, is negotiating in good faith, intends to purchase this property. And if you default on the property, then you could potentially lose that earnest money to the seller. And that's something, again, that you want to understand how that would work and, when potentially your earnest money would be at risk. So that's a conversation you want to have with your realtor. Once you put your earnest money down, you're going to go ahead and schedule your home inspection. Obviously, at the time your home inspection is done, your inspector is going to want to be paid. So you'll be making your payment for your home inspection. You will usually pay for your appraisal upfront. I know right now the credit union is offering to cover the cost of that appraisal. So that's fantastic that's going to save you some money there. And then upon the day of closing is when you're going to have your final cash to close. And that will include your down payment amount, your closing costs, your prepaids, which are your upfront taxes and insurance that'll be put into an escrow account. And those are numbers that Joe is going to provide for you. So you'll have plenty of notice and you'll know how much money you're going to need the day of closing. So I had mentioned as far as negotiations, and this is why I say it's always great to have a refresher, even if you've bought homes before, because things are always changing. And if you haven't bought a home in 10 years, you might be jumping into a market that's very, very different from the last time you bought a home. So it's always good to know what is happening in your market. So I've got a few little market statistics for you. I did some for Cobb County, some for Cherokee County, just to give you an idea of what we're seeing right now. There are only 1.7 months of inventory right now in Cobb County. That is very low inventory. A balanced market is usually considered about 4 to 6 months of inventory. We have been running low. I mean, 2 months or low for probably the last 3 to 4 years, really since 2020. And that hasn't changed much. And that's all across the metro area. So that does mean that's indicative of it being a seller's market. The list to sold price ratio in Cobb County, and this is data as of the end of January, because February, of course, ends tomorrow. So we won't have that data until after tomorrow. But as of the end of January, the list to sold price ratio was 98%. So that does tell us that there's a little bit of negotiating going on, but not a whole lot. So we're seeing, some sellers are contributing toward buyers' closing costs, which is certainly helpful to buyers. But again, depending on where you are, that may be more prevalent, depending upon what price range you're looking in. Certain price ranges are, I'd say, a little bit hotter and moving faster than other price ranges right now. Our median days on the market, that's how long the home has been on the market before it goes under contract. In Cobb County, as of the end of January, homes are only staying on the market 21 days is the median. That's very, very short. We used to tell people years ago, expect your home to be on the market, 3 to 4 months. Again, now we're talking less than a month. So again, that still points to the fact that it is a seller's market. And although people maybe thought when interest rates started increasing, we were going to see a sudden decrease in home prices, it really didn't happen. I mean, when in 2022, there was a little bit of a dip in prices when the rates started going up so fast, but we've already seen that level off. And you can see right here, year over year, as compared to last January, home values have gone up nearly 10% with a median sold price. And this is the entire county, all of Cobb County. This is, condos, townhouses, detached properties. Median is 417,500. And then if we go to the next slide, we'll look at Cherokee County, and you'll see that the numbers are very similar. So again, this is pretty typical of Metro Atlanta. 2 months inventory, really low, little bit of negotiation, but not a whole lot. For about a year and a half, that 98.2% was at or even above 100%. I mean, sellers were getting 100% of what they were asking. They weren't contributing anything toward buyers' closing costs. Sellers were really kind of, in control and driving the train. Again, it's important to understand and have somebody who can help you. Because at the end of the day, if your goal is to close on a home, we want to get you the best deal that we possibly can, but we also want to make sure that we're getting you to the closing table. And again, 23 days on the market, it says year over year, that number has gone down 25.8%. But again, we're only talking 23 days, I think it had been 30, it was 31 days. So it's still very, very low. Our inventory in Atlanta remains very, very low. And as you can see, again, the median sold price has continued to go up in Cherokee County. Year over year, it went up about 6% from last year. Historically, prices tend to, values tend to increase about 4.5% a year. So you can see even now, even with the increase in rates, we're still above that, kind of 4.5 that we normally see in a normal market. Oh, and I'm sorry, if we can go back there one more time, and if you've got your cell phone with you, I encourage you to take it out real quick, scan that QR code, that will take you to my buyer resource page. There is a lot of great information about the buying process out there. There's charts and checklists out there for buyers. It will link you directly to the credit union's website. So if you're ready to go ahead and apply for a mortgage, you can get to the credit union directly from my link page on my buyer resource page there. And then we have got one more chart, and this chart I just really like because I think it really gives a great visual. And this only goes back to 2021, but if we even backed this up, another 2 or 3 years, you would find the bottom chart there is your median sales price, and it has just continued to increase. So you're looking at, the green is Cherokee County, the black is Cobb County. They've both kind of been trending upward and continue to trend upward. The top chart is the number of homes for sale. And I think it's just interesting to see it, the middle of 2022, you can kind of see that bump up. So we did have more inventory at that point. And what happened in the middle of 2022? Well, the rates were rapidly starting to increase. Really, at the beginning of 2022, rates were rapidly increasing. So at that point, we had sellers who I think were kind of waiting to see, I'm going to wait to get the most money I can. I'm going to wait to put my home on the market, when I think that we're at the top, at the height of the market. And when rates started going up, I think some of those sellers started to put their homes on the market. But what we're finding now is prices are continuing to increase, even though our inventory is going back down. And you can see that little spike when the amount of inventory went up in that top chart, the sales prices took a little bit of a dip, but everything is starting to just kind of level off again. So we're down to still having low inventory. Our prices, although they're not increasing as fast as they had been, say in 2020, 2021, as you saw on the previous page, they are still continuing to go up. So that's why it's so important just to have folks who can help you out, get yourself pre-approved ahead of time. So like Joe said, when you are negotiating, you are put, and your offer is, hopefully going to be the strongest that's being put in front of that seller. And you've got somebody there to help you out through the process. If you have questions specifically about other parts of Metro Atlanta, different areas, I would always be available to provide additional information, market information for you for other areas as well. And I thank you so much for your time this evening.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Now we are going to turn it over to Alan Rainwater, and he is our home appraisal, and he is representing Alan Rainwater Appraisals.
Good evening. I'm the person that you probably will never see in this process. Because being a home buyer, I usually go to the property during the day to do the appraisal inspection at the property. It's not a home inspection like you hear about in a minute. It's just an inspection to make sure that there's nothing bad about the house. It's dangerous, or to the credit union that there is actually a house there and that it will hold the value for your mortgage. I will produce a report evaluating the home with recent sales in the area and provide that report to the lender, the credit union, and the lender is the client in this process, and then they will forward you a copy of that. I will be provided a copy of the contract to make sure I'm going to the right property, to tell the lender that there is a property there. And that will be, and then I produce a report and bring it to you, to the lender. On my report, there's my email and my phone number if you have any questions. But it will have everything you need there, the plat, the floodplain, and pictures of the house to make sure I did actually go to the correct house. So let me know if you have any questions. Thank you for your time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alan. I am now going to turn it over to Tim Reed. He is the home inspector representing OpenEye Home Inspections.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Appreciate you guys taking time out of your night to do this. It's hopefully very beneficial to you after you get done hearing all of these steps and processes to put into place to make your process much easier when you're ready to buy a house. What I do doesn't have charts or graphs, has pictures of things going wrong. What you want to do when you get a home inspection, you want to make sure you have a home inspector that is ASHI certified. That's ASHI, that stands for American Society of Home Inspectors. That is the only organization, licensing organization that's recognized in all 50 states. If you are buying a new home construction, the builder will not let your inspector on property if he's not ASHI certified. So it's very important that you make sure that you have a certified home inspector that knows what they're doing. On any home inspection, I'm going to go in, if I do the home inspection, I'm going to find everything that's wrong with the house. It's my job to give you and your realtor a very good overview as to what's wrong with the home. It also gives your realtor items that they can negotiate a better price on the home in some cases. So there's a multitude of reasons to have a home inspection. Everybody has an Uncle Bubba or somebody in their family that, knows a lot about construction, and those people a lot of times show up at the home inspections with me, and that's fine. I don't have any problem with that at all. But it takes a very short time for them to figure out that their level of expertise is generally in one area, whereas what we do is a multitude of areas. We're going to be looking at your foundation, your roof, your interior rooms, your plumbing, your electrical system, your HVAC system, everything that has to do with the home. We're going to go over it and give you an idea as to whether or not it's functional or whether or not something needs to be repaired in that regard. Now, my inspection reports are done 100% with photographs. So it's very difficult for people to argue with the problems I call out when there's a close-up photo, a backed-up photo, and a very detailed explanation. Which again, this gives gives you the information that you need to make a good decision, and gives your real estate the information they need to help negotiate you the best price. In any home inspection, you want to follow the 3 S's. That's safety, systems, and structure. Beyond that, we have deferred maintenance. All homes have deferred maintenance. It's not to say that you're not going to negotiate on those or have those things fixed, but in your prioritization, you want to look at safety, structure, and systems first, because that's where the money is, and that's where you really want to know what it is you're dealing with. Now, when we do a home inspection, we're going to give you the ages of the furnace, the condenser, the hot water tank, estimated lifespans. Are they functioning correctly? Are they hooked up correctly? These type things. And those all fall under the safety issues. We're also going to check the appliances to make sure everything's in working order and give you an estimated time frame for how most appliances will last in most homes. If you have a good home inspector that is interactive like myself, and a lot of guys are, we're gonna be able to counsel you even after you get the report. We'll be able to give you some ideas as to what, qualified contractor would charge to fix certain items. And then help you focus on what's the most important things in that report, that you need to be interested in, because these reports are long. Mine are extremely long because they have a lot of photographs, but they have a summary that explains everything that needs to be fixed. And within that summary, then we can have a conversation about what's the most important and what those costs might be. If you look at some of the photos there, you're going to see some pretty interesting photos. I could write a multi-thousand page book on the things I've seen in the 14 years I've been an inspector of what we call DIY gone bad. If you could show the next clip, please. These are the items that are obvious, okay? We can see a leaning chimney. We can see a post that's about to come out from underneath the deck. We can see that interesting little vent that they drilled into the wood floor there to get your air to come through. Those are things that you likely are going to see, or your friends are going to see, or your family's going to see when you go through a home. We're going to see the things that you don't see. I use an infrared camera, so I'm scanning your walls, your ceilings, your floors, looking for water intrusion, lack of insulation, any type of temperature differential that's going to lead me to a problem. I'm going to use a drone for your roof. Have an FAA certified license to fly the drones. We have to have those for flying these for commercial reasons. Make sure your inspector has that. It's quite a hefty fine if he doesn't. That's going to allow me to see every square inch of the roof, the chimney cap, everything above that roof. I'm going to see every square inch of it, and we can get that in the report if we have any problems. So these are the type of things that we're going to see that your family members and folks that do have your best interests at heart might miss during an inspection. Now, one of the other things I want to touch on is the different types of inspections that we do. If you're doing a new home inspection, some companies do multiple inspections. I do pre-drywall inspections and final home inspections. And then I also do what's called a 1-year inspection, because new homes have a 1-year warranty on them. And if you go through that home at the 11-month point and pick out everything that's wrong, that's your last chance to go back to that builder to get those things fixed. So those type of inspections are beneficial to you if you're buying a new home. We're also going to do what's called radon testing. Radon is an odorless, colorless gas that emits from the Earth's crust when uranium decays. Not to get too technical on you here, but Atlanta sits in what we call an elevated radon zone. Atlanta average for radon is a 2.3. National average is a 1.3. So we do sit a little bit higher on the radon scale. Now, 4.0 and above, you should do remediation. And what that means is you need to get the radon out of the home, because it is the second leading cause of lung cancer that we know we can prevent. So having an inspector that does radon testing, mold, air quality tests, different types of inspections, that's what you want to look for when you're looking for an inspection company, and specifically an inspector. The 1-year inspections, like I said, those are primarily for new built homes. Our reports are built 100% with photographs, so it's very easy to see what these things are. Now, a lot of times people will find a home that's just their dream home, and here comes Tim. And we start finding all kinds of problems and things that need to be addressed in the home. That doesn't mean that you need to run from the house screaming. There's anything can be fixed, anything can be negotiated. And that's, the job of your realtor when I give you guys all the information. I had a house recently up on Lake Arrowhead. It's a $1.2 million home. House was in impeccably great shape. However, there was about $110,000 worth of retaining walls and seawall that needed to be done. So after this was put in the report, everybody was able to read it and digest it. They went back to them, were able to get the money off of that. So now it's a $1.1 million home instead of $1.2 million home. But the point is even a $100,000 repair in certain situations is not out of the realm of possibility, depending on the price of the house and what the situation is. So the best thing you can do for yourself is to make sure you line yourself with good professionals throughout this entire process. And the home inspector is one of those professionals you should really take seriously, because we can help you save a lot of money in a lot of cases. We can help you see things that might cost you a lot of money in a lot of cases. And those type of things are what we do. So when you're looking for a home inspector, find somebody who's qualified, make sure they know what they're doing, make sure they have good references, and make sure they, like what they do. So because people call me 2, 3, 5 years down the road and ask me, hey, I saw this in your report. I got this question. This contractor told me this. What do you think? Those things don't bother me at all. That's what we do as inspectors. So, I've got a cornucopia of useless knowledge if we're not talking about home inspections, but if we are, I can be your best friend. So keep that in mind if you would, please, and thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tim. I am now going to turn the presentation over to our final presenter, Willie Phelan with Sherman and Phelan, and he is going to talk about the real estate closing process.
Good evening, everybody. This is Willie Phelan. I'm a closing attorney with the law firm Sherman and Phelan. Just want to start off by saying, congratulations on your decision to buy a new home, and also congratulations on your decision to work with the credit union, Credit Union Georgia. Our firm's been working with credit unions for over 30 years now, and just through that experience, I'm actually a member of 4 different credit unions because I hold their values and the way in which they treat their members so highly. And I think you're going to see if you work with Joe and his team, that they're concerned with the job that they do for you and are going to go out of the way to make this process a great one for you. But it's kind of apropos that I'm going last because I'm also the last person you're going to see at closing. But we didn't get started pretty early in the process. But as soon as you get a contract on the property, that gets sent to our office and we get to work. One of the early things we do and what we're doing more and more of nowadays is called earnest money. We've now set up where we can either accept earnest money through a wire or an online portal to make it easier for folks to deposit that with us. We also accept checks. Most closing firms do. One of the things we also do is kind of help parties, both buyers and sellers, understand the terms of the contract, especially if you're not working with a real estate agent. I would encourage you this way, is that if you're not sure what the contract means, what some of the terms are, what your responsibilities or obligations are, don't sign it. Wait until you have a chance to talk to the real estate agent or the attorney, because once you sign that contract, your rights and obligations are kind of set at that point. Because we're holding earnest money in so many transactions now, we're seeing a lot more disputes over who can get earnest money if the deal goes awry. So if you know what the contingencies in the contract are to allow you to get the earnest money back if something were to go wrong, before you sign the contract, to see if that would be very helpful. Also say that if you're a first-time home buyer, I would strongly suggest you working with a realtor like Rebecca. I get asked lots and lots of questions throughout the day from first-time home buyers. And if we're working with a real estate agent, a lot of those issues can be cut off ahead of time. Also, I've bought and sold a number of houses myself, and a home inspection is crucial. You do not know what you're getting into unless you have your home inspected. And I personally like to walk with the home inspector like them, just so I know exactly what the house looks like before I buy it. But just to give you an idea of some of the main things that we do once we do have the contract, is we're going to perform a title search, we're going to conduct the closing, we hold all the funds, so we get funds from the buyer, from the credit union, and then we disperse everything at the end of the closing. We issue what's called title insurance, and then we record the deeds. So title search. So there's 2 really main goals to do a title search. One is to confirm ownership, and the other is to identify liens. You think that, the first one, confirm ownership. There's more issues with that than you may think. So the person signing the contract may actually not be the person that owns the house. In the last year and a half, we've had any number of different contracts that have had issues with either the LLC or corporate entity that's selling the house, they may not be the correct entity, or really with the state issues. Somebody's mother or father owned the home and they passed away, and then an heir or child tries to sell the property. They may or may not have the ability or the legal right to do so. One of the first things we do is just figure out who can really sell it. And then we identify liens on the property. So this would be our title rather. This could be things like mortgages, judgments, IRS, Georgia Department of Revenue liens. We also look for other issues like covenants that are on the property that would suggest there may be a homeowners association, or easements on the property. And an easement is the right for someone else to use your property. So we also, find those, and we write a report called a title commitment. That title commitment goes to the credit union, so they know what the status of title is. And we also send one to the buyer so that they know what the status of title is, before the closing. Now, all this information can be collected from public records. So we search the public records, in the clerk's office where the property is located, county where the property is located. We also confirm taxes on the property. You know, what's the current status of taxes? Are they paid? Are there any due? And if you're thinking about buying a piece of property in Fulton County right now, there are some issues with the ability to identify taxes. They were subject to a cyber attack back in January. And as of right now, a lot of their systems are still down. So if you are buying something in Fulton, I'm happy to answer any questions about workarounds or solutions we may be able to come up with. Once we do identify any liens on the property, like mortgages or judgments, we work with the sellers to obtain payoffs. And those payoffs are going to be made at the time of closing out of the seller's proceeds. And then we're going to clear up any other type of issues. And most of these that we work with the seller with, such as state issues that we might have to clear, or obtain certain documents pertaining to a corporate seller. So once we have clear title and we send the title commitment over to the credit union and to the buyer, at that point, we kind of wait until the file is clearly closed from the credit union, and then we can conduct the closing. The first thing we do is work with the buyer and seller to come up with a good time and place to meet. And we are pretty flexible on where we meet. So our office is here in Marietta off of Delk Road, but at least 50% or more of our closings are actually done outside of the office. I was telling Joe just a second ago that yesterday I was in Folkestone, Georgia, if you know where that is, which is 300 miles away in South Georgia, doing a closing for another credit union. Don't typically drive that far for a closing, but we will. Most of the things we do for the credit union are either here in Cobb, or in Cherokee, or wherever one of the branches are located. In order to prepare to do the closing, first we have to get closing documents from the credit union, and we also prepare some in-house as well. We work with the credit union to come up with the closing disclosure, which is basically a settlement statement. Sit down with everybody to review the documents and then sign everything. That process takes about 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how much your closing attorney usually talks. And then after closing, we disperse all the funds, and including making any payoffs. After closing, we also issue title insurance. So there's two kinds of title insurance. There's lenders title insurance and there's owner's title insurance. And it's retrospective. So it looks back at what the title was, and we ensure that the lender is getting a first lien position on the property, and that you as the owner is getting marketable title, which means that nobody else is going to knock on your door until you get out of their house. And if you get the owner's policy at the same time that the lender gets their policy, you actually get a discount. It's called a simultaneous issue rate. So you get a little bit of break on the premium. We also record deeds. So most every county in Georgia now allows the e-record deed, which is a lot faster than the old way, which is having to snail mail it to the clerk's office. So we will give the deed back in probably a day or two, and then we'll forward that to you for free. Just to let you know, if you're buying a house, there's a lot of unscrupulous companies out there that will try to get you to purchase a deed from them for $75 or $100. Don't do that, because the closing attorney will send you the original free. And at that point, our pretty much concluded with our process. But just some things to think about. 2 through 5. Home buying tips. So everything in the contract is negotiable, price, closing cost, repairs. Just make sure if you're gonna negotiate it, do so before you sign the contract. I oftentimes get asked to review contracts, especially for people who are buying, new construction, new properties. Once you sign the contract, negotiations are over. So I can tell you what things mean, we just can't change it. Depending on whether it's a buyer or seller market, you can have a longer or shorter due diligence period. I like to see, if I'm representing a buyer, I like to see a longer due diligence period. This gives them a better chance to get out and look at the property, to get this report back to you, and allows you and your real estate agent to have more time to make a better decision about renegotiating any repairs or price adjustments. If at all possible too for a buyer, I'd like to see contingencies in there for appraisals and financing. Now, again, it depends on the market you're in. A lot of sellers do not like contingencies in the contract because that means that it may not close. But if you're able to put financing contingency appraisals in the contract, I suggest you do so. Financing contingency basically gives a time period in which the judge can qualify you for the loan. And if for whatever reason he cannot, then you can get out of the contract and get your earnest money back. Same thing with the appraisal. So if Alan was not able to come up with the value that you need to purchase the property, if it's within that appraisal period, then you can again terminate the contract and get your earnest money back. I had a note on here about incorporating the seller's disclosure into the contract. There have been some adjustments to the Georgia Association of Realtors form. So that is part of the contract, and does survive closing. And what the seller's disclosure basically does, is it gives you 3 or 4 pages of check boxes as to the condition of the property. It's instructive, but I would not rely on that if I were a buyer. I would have a home inspection done. So some additional tips. So if repairs are needed on the property, you have a couple of options. You can have the seller reduce the purchase price by the amount of the repairs that are needed. Or you can have that paid directly to a contractor closing into the seller's proceeds. I think we're still good doing that, Joe. Yeah, correct. Shane said that we can still do that. Still can. You can't cut a check to yourself, but you can cut a check to a third-party contractor to make those repairs on your behalf. And I like that as opposed to having the seller make the repairs. 9 times out of 10, they're not gonna fix it like you like, but your contractor will, especially if you're holding a check. Credit unions have a big advantage over banks and mortgage brokers, mortgage companies, because they do not have to collect for intangibles tax. The intangibles tax is something that we as closing attorneys have to collect at each closing at the rate of $3 per thousand of the loan amount. Which can really add up the bigger the loan amount is. That's a savings that you get just merely by working with the credit union. If you do not have an agent, then the closing attorney can help you draft a contract. We actually have a form on our website for sale by owner folks. If you fill that out and submit it, we can help draft a contract, and you can actually sign it electronically. And then I'll get the process started. Surveys. So I keep going back and forth on whether or not surveys need. And it really depends on what kind of property you're buying. If you're buying a property in a platted subdivision, chances are you're going to be okay to have a survey. And of course, I say that, and next thing you know, you're going to buy a platted subdivision property. You're going to have somebody's fence in your yard, but most of the time you're okay. If you're buying rural property or in-town property, a survey is probably a pretty good idea. You just don't know if somebody's pool is going to be in your yard, somebody's fence, or whether something's built over a setback line. I will say this, surveys are not cheap anymore and they can take a long time to get. The last surveys I saw were probably anywhere in the $800 to $1,000 range and took, over a month to get back. So you have to weigh that within your purchase decision, and your risk profile. And Doug's reminded me that surveys are not required. So in order to do a loan with the credit union, you do not have to get a survey. They actually have survey coverage in their title insurance policies. It's just something as a buyer, you have to make a decision whether.
Well, thank you so much, Willie, for going over the closing process with for the members. This is our last slide. But just to let you know that we are here to help. We have a whole page on our website dedicated to our mortgage program. So it's just cufga.org/mortgages. I will send this slide deck to everyone that RSVP'd to attend. So you will receive a copy of the recording as well as a copy of the slideshow tomorrow via email. And this has everyone's contact information. So it has their phone number as well as their email address. I know that we had one question asking if we could go back to the Cobb County slide chart, but I will email that out to you tomorrow, and so you'll have a copy of it. But if anyone else has any additional questions for our panel, please just feel free to type it in the chat right now, and we will answer those questions. I'll leave the slide up for contact information. I don't see any additional questions, but we do appreciate you attending so much. We are here. We're your trusted advisor. I know y'all work with our people in the branches a lot, but our mortgage department, we are here at our Kennesaw location and kind of throughout the credit union. So we are definitely here to help you. And these are the folks that we use and we refer out to our members because we trust them. So we definitely think they'll take good care of you like our member service staff does. So and thank you for all the thank yous that y'all are putting in the comments. We appreciate that. So I hope y'all all have a great evening and just keep your eye out for this email tomorrow. And we appreciate you very much. Have a good night.